Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome. Thank you for joining us today for this important conversation on AI adoption in APAC, turning AI investments into measurable business outcomes. I'm Srishti and I'll be your host for today's session. Over the last few years, AI adoption across the APAC region has accelerated rapidly. Organizations are investing in AI to drive efficiency, innovation, and competitive advantage. And yet, despite this momentum, many are still struggling to translate these investments into clear, measurable business outcomes. AI initiatives are launched, tools are implemented, pilots show promise. But when it comes to scaling impact, the results can often fall short. Leaders are left asking, where is the ROI? Why aren't we seeing any consistent business value? But today's session is not about why AI matters. It's about how organizations across APAC can turn AI investments into tangible, measurable outcomes. At Adoptify AI, we have seen that success isn't just about the implementation, it's about aligning strategy, execution, and outcomes to drive real impact. What we have consistently observed is this: AI success isn't just about implementation, it's about alignment between strategy, execution, and outcomes. Without the right frameworks, governance, and focus on measurable value, even well funded AI initiatives can struggle to deliver meaningful results. Today, we'll explore exactly that. And to guide us through this discussion, we are joined by two leaders who bring deep experience in AI strategy, technology, and real world adoption. Joining us first is Mr. Chintan Dave, General Manager and Certification Director at Adoptify AI, who brings a deep technology and systems thinking perspective to the AI transformation journey. Chintan has spent years working across emerging technologies and enterprise environments, helping organizations design AI strategy that are robust, scalable, and future ready. His work aligns closely with the idea that achieving measurable outcomes from AI requires more than deploying solutions. It requires structured integration with business goals, performance metrics, and operational workflows. Next, I am pleased to welcome Rahul Srivastav, Strategy Director at Adoptify AI. Rahul brings over 8 years of experience in the edtech industry, working across strategy and operations, program management, growth, and business development. Over the years, he has played a key role in multiple 0 to 1 initiatives, helping organizations launch and scale impactful programs from the ground up. What makes Rahul's perspective particularly valuable for today's conversation is his focus on bridging strategy with execution, ensuring that AI initiatives are not just launched but are tracked, optimized, and translated into measurable business outcomes. Rahul and Chintan, without a further ado, I would like to hand over the stage to you.
Thank you, and good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone who have joined us on a Friday. I really understand that your half of the mind is already on the weekend side of things, and half of the mind is still thinking, what is AI doing in your organization? So I think we'll keep it very sharp, quick, and very optimistic about how we drive adoption and how we help enterprise drive adoption through Adoptify AI as one of the biggest channel that we have developed over the period of 27 years of business that we have been into. What we will cover today is the reality of where AI stands, or where the organization stands with respect to AI in general. Of course, we would then like to deep down into exactly where are the breakdowns that happens over the journey when you try to improvise, increase maybe the tools you try to execute, most importantly when you try to scale things up, where is the breakdown that really happens, and how we have encountered it with multiple organizations by dealing with them over the period of years. We would also be talking about a simple framework, not a very complex framework, from how you can move from pilots to really the adoption, and from adoption how you can see the ROI coming in from either accuracy perspective, productivity perspective, if you talk about efficacy perspective, anything that we want to measure, how do we measure it, and how Adoptify AI really helps measure that. And finally, what the actual what the actual business would look like when you have the automated workflows in place where everyone is talking about AI, because we all know there are issues with governance, there are issues with model drifting, there are issues with scaling up the pilots, there are issues with orchestration of agents, all of those things. What we are going to drive here is part by part, what are the key problems and why are these problems existing at the very first place. How do we solve that problem with a very simple, without any complexity involved into the framework? How do we solve that problem using multiple checkpoints and multiple checklists that we have developed for the organizations? And after that, we definitely would like to hear from you, the final question and answer sessions, where you can put it across your questions on the chat, and we would like to answer those questions as well. Is it fine, Chintan? You have anything to add on to, or shall we move ahead?
No, absolutely. So this is what the structure of the call we want to keep so that you guys are fully aligned. That we want to make sure that we make the most out of the session. This session is designed for the business leaders, CXOs, CROs, and head of the transformation who are actually going through this process right now. And what we are actually going to share is not the kind of a product pitch. We want to be very clear upfront that what we are going to share is a framework, which is one of the most important framework which has been tested. We have been working with lots of clients and then enterprise deployments. We are actually going to, next week, 1 hour, we are going to actually walk you through where AI adoption actually stands in the APAC, and then how we really go deep into some of the framework discussions that we are going to go deep into, where we call it our proprietary framework, which we are working on and we have deployed, which is an AAA framework. And then we would definitely want to have your questions, feedback, and any specific comments you want to have it, we want to address so that we make the most out of your time. So feel free to drop into these questions or the feedback that you have it while we discuss. But yep, wonderful kickoff, Rahul. Over to you.
Thank you, Chintan. So I think it's very important for all of us to understand. Before Shrishti even started off, he asked everyone, people who have joined recently in the meeting, we were asking all of the people who are in the call to answer these questions. Where are you in your journey? This is a very important question to ask yourself. Where are you actually in your journey? Have you developed, deployed the AI tools? Is the usage or the utilization is lower? Are you not able to track the utilization at the moment? Because there are enterprises who have bought licenses, who knows that this is going to add value, but they really do not know whether their people readiness is up to the mark in terms of utilizing these tools or not. And then there is a problem of trackability. There's no KPI that the organization looks at, where if finance goes and tells that I have actually bought these things and I have procured these licenses for you, whether there is a real use case for it or not. So we would just like all of you to take 30 seconds and write down in the chat very quickly, what is that you are at, where are you in your AI journey, which company are you from, so that at least on a very high level we have a little more context of the audience, where the mixture is coming from. I would just tell you, this is my, I think, second webinar of the year, and we know the spread is always going to be it's all over the place. It's not concentrated only at one place. We know some of the organizations are really facing issues with respect to trackability, or some of the, when I say trackability, it is visibility. When I talk about deployment, some of the organizations are in where exploration is happening at a very fast pace. They're just exploring all the tools. They have taken some pilot tools, and they're deploying it to just see the productivity. So you can just be free and write it down in the chat. If you have mistakenly typed C and you are actually A, recorrect it so that it helps all of us. I'll quickly move into the next slide. AI is no longer the question, execution is. What all of us are saying, I think the messaging has been very clear that across APAC, when we talk about APAC, you all know that APAC is going to be always the application layer of AI. The infrastructure layer always would be around US and the west side of it, but application layer of AI is always going to be across the APAC region, that we all have understood over a period of time from 2020 to 2026. What we have seen is enterprises have committed to AI, tools deployed, licenses activated, leadership is fully committed. We have spoken to, I, on the other part, is also the CTO of Adoptify. We have gone to multiple calls with multiple leaderships across the board, and we have seen that the digital transformation using AI has been one of the key metrics for any CEOs in the company, and that is something that is being driven by design, which is right. But when it comes to real adoption, when the thrust is given to everyone and the funnel is, the top of the funnel has no real blockers, the real problem becomes at the bottom of the funnel, where the adoption is uneven, ROI is unmeasured, and the board is asking questions, no one can answer it. So this is something, again, I am reiterating it, this is from a limited conversations we have had across in the last 3.5, 4 years with our clients. specifically around the adoption side of things. So AI spending is really going up, wherein everyone is looking at the investment going up in AI. Everyone is talking about AI. Outcomes is something that still is not being talked about. I'm not saying for everyone, but still there are organizations who are not really talking about outcomes. In fact, I just wanted to talk to you about, this was the same case with us 3.5, 4 years back. We had a team of almost 1,000 people. We have bought in chat gpt. Then people started asking, why don't you have Claude coming in? Then Sonnet 4.5 came in. Then people started asking us, can we bring in more marketing AI ready tools rather than having these tools? And then we were having all the set of tools, and the real problem was not the tools. The real problem was the readiness of people, that they really want to use it or not, and how well they're able to utilize those tools basis their skill set. So that becomes a real problem. And then we understood that it is very important to discontinue and retire the tools as well while we go, because business finance keeps on looking at the fact that you are increasing the tool, the productivity is not getting increased. So that's the theme of today's session, where we would like to take you through the complete framework what we have developed over a period of years of hard work with the clients, and where we have shown the ROI with respect to what we have done till date. And that's where we would like you to take you through. If anyone has any questions, feel free to write it in chat. We'll be more than happy to answer it, because as Chintan rightly mentioned, we do not want to keep this as a boring session running you through the frameworks, all the theoretical part. We are here to really solve the problems. In fact, I can promise you that after this call, if you need a one-on-one session, a free consulting session, we can bring in our SME in place. We can have a one-on-one consulting session as well, where our SME can get an understanding of your use case, and then maybe help you drive how you can do it as a whole, as a team, how you can drive the adoption. So I think, Chintan, if you see, the pattern is same in APAC, right? If you talk about AI is not failing, execution is. We have all been talking about execution has been the biggest KPI now. AI implementation has a lot to do with execution. Now we cannot just talk about having a small pilot going in, and then that pilot gets really inflated when it comes to results, because you are using the right people to use that pilot, that is by design meant to be successful. And then when you actually scale it up with multiple teams and organization, you see that it doesn't really work out, and it does not has the output or the velocity that we were expecting it from. So I think on a high level, a concentration of people who you choose versus what tools you select is also important. But at the same time, we have to think from a perspective where whether your team is really ready to drive AI adoption or not. And from our understanding, when we deep dived into multiple survey analytics, we understood that the most important thing that is lacking right now is the skill set for people to know how to use tools to improve their productivity. And I can always tell you, we have increased productivity to an extent of 18 to 25%, for few organizations 27%. But that happens when organizations are themselves very ready to take it forward. We have done multiple change management, because a lot of workflow has changed, a lot of changes that has happened from tool to tool. That is where we do a lot of change management with our team. That is where our program managers comes in play. They do a lot of hand holding. I will be able to give you a lot more comprehensive understanding. But before that, it's very important. What I just mentioned has 4 important gaps. Workflow gap, where AI is introduced but never embedded into the work that drives the real business value. As simple as that, having a CRM in place and not using agent to drive an outreach campaign or outbound campaign. If you are into people gap, if you talk about people gap, it is more about the readiness of people to really use that tool. It's not very when we talk about AI, it's not just that only prompting techniques would be able to help you drive the productivity out of the tool. There are a lot of other things that you need to understand beyond prompting to get an understanding of how to utilize the tool better. Visibility gap, as I mentioned in the first slide itself, that trackability and visibility becomes a leadership challenge, where there's no one who's able to see a complete ROI dashboard or create a dashboard that simplifies everything for the leaders to understand where are they in their journey, whether the investment that they have made 6 months back is actually going to give them an impact in the next 6 months or not. So I think proactively having leaders track everything that really is important, the key North Star matrix that is important for all the companies, is very efficient way of looking at things right now. That is also one of the things we have observed with our clients, that visibility becomes a challenge. So how you have the automation, how you have all the tools integrated in your ecosystem, how do they really come up with one picture, and in that one picture you're able to see how finance is using a Copilot, how HRs are using onboarding bot as a Copilot, to really do and improvise their onboarding and experience of a candidate, experience of onboarding the candidate. All of those things really are very important. And when we talk about governance, of course, this is something I've been talking about since then. We discuss it because we have multiple clients across the world. If you talk about APAC, we have clients from Philippines to China to Japan to Taiwan to India. So governance structures where some of the policies are not really existent in another country, where some of the policies are actually making sense in their country. So it's very important to have a policy structure and a governance mechanism which is very holistic in nature. As an organization, we have also struggled it in the earlier 3 years. After having so many customer meetings, customer DMs, we have understood that there is a metric, there is a method to madness, and that's where we have created this complete framework. So very quickly, I think I just wanted to reiterate it: workflow gap, people gap, visibility gap, governance gap. So the entire framework from what we do today will be revolving around these things. How do we automate workflows? How do we ensure that people are ready where they are right now versus how they will be in future? Visibility, how we can bring in more dashboards in place, not dashboards that can create analysis paralysis, but dashboards that can really create value for leaders to see whether there is an ROI coming in or not. And of course, governance is something that, with collaboration of right SMEs and right people across the organization, would help. So I think this is what I wanted to talk to you all about. So if I talk about, this is a very dramatic picture that I put it on the PPT. Just wanted to tell you, week one, this is the big rollout that comes in. All the emails has all the details. There's a big shout out. There is a big town hall that has been done where people are engaged, people are told about what is the importance of it. Then people go into the link for the training portal, how they get trained on the 3 weeks later, they realize, did anyone actually install the app? As simple as that. If I am actually going to do Copilot, I've purchased Copilot licenses for Microsoft 365. Do my sales team really know about Copilot licenses? And do they even know that Copilot licenses have multiple Copilot licenses in itself? Copilot license for sales is different than Copilot license for finance. So I think that becomes very important. And this is something I'm again telling you with very limited conversations we have had in the last 3.5, 4 years. This is very big issue that we has come across, that people really do not care about it. Employees do not really care about it. Who cares about it is the CEO of the company, the CIO of the company, the CTO of the company, who's really putting brains into the fact that how will we drive from the top to the bottom. In fact, we have seen executive layers doing a lot of certifications to ensure they are setting it with example. All of those things happening, still failing to really drive the adoption. So I think every organization, what we have understood, has a very simple journey. They deploy, get the foundations right, they activate people, they do a lot of pilot. They don't want to scale effectively across all the departments. They will start with 2 or 3 departments where they know. For an example, recently we had a client where we did an adoption and we showed them the ROI within 90 days of 13% increase in SDLC. So they were using Cursor AI, they were using multiple other tools without any governance. How did we bring really real discipline to the habits that they have been formulating over the years? How did we ensure that no one in SDLC team should do the coding actually? So that has been the narrative that we set it from the start when we started with the pilot, to a people of 37 odd people that we did it with one of the big giants in Philippines. If I talk about scale, of course, you all know that pilot gives us confidence to scale things, but with respect to AI, it's not always true. That there are companies, there are teams we have seen where we have not even done pilot with them, and when they are actually brought in into the system, like HRs, how do you use AI? And we have seen a lot more productivity in that particular domain. So productivity also has a lot to do with departments, and of course with the kind of energy and people you have in the organization. Of course, last is optimize. You keep optimizing the workflows, you keep optimizing the entire ecosystem that you have created around AI to ensure that there's no major load on the system, but at the same time, there is an optimal mix of a right human in the loop versus the AI in the loop. So I think that optimization and that sweet spot becomes really very important. So with that, I think if I want to really introduce you and tell you what exactly Adoptify does right now, there are 2 track journeys that we have developed for everyone. One is people readiness, one is organization readiness. In fact, I just wanted to, Chetan, if you remember, we have created an in-house tool for our sales team. We have created this in-house tool for our sales team where we have 45,000 unique accounts for our company, 45 to 50,000 unique accounts, and the salesperson does not really know who to connect with, what should I ask, and who should I ask. And that is where we created a complete GPT, and we embedded that into Copilot, and then we asked our sales team to start utilizing it. This was 2.5 years back, I'm sorry. And that is when we realized that it's really not about how the system is working, whether there is an accuracy in the system or not, whether the system is actually giving you the right information or not. It is more about whether people are having that buy-in to really use that or not. Over a period of 95 days, we realized no one used it. We tracked their view time, we tracked the dashboards, nothing worked out. And then we realized in ourselves itself that people readiness is very important and organization is much more important. So can your people actually use AI to do a better job? Skills will build confidence, and that confidence will build behavioral change. That is something that we all know. Role clarity is again very important. We talk about AI across and we are all over the place. We do not know what role, what AI tool, what workflows needs to get into. So that is where we crack the model where everything that we do today is synced with the roles. If you are into HR, you are into finance, you are into legal, you are into healthcare, you are into maybe SDLC, a software developer. These are the tracks that we have developed very categorically, how AI can get integrated, and then you can keep up with the pace of AI as well. Because as we all say that AI is changing and caggering at 38-40%. When I was back in 12 years, 10 years back, when I was in college, we had cybersecurity and cloud being one of or two major, I would say, technologies that have been emerging. But now we all see that AI has been growing at more than that. I mean, double of what they were growing at their peak. So I think it's very important and relevant for all of us to understand that skills builds confidence. Confidence helps them to change the behavior. That's what we try to do here. Without it, tool fatigue, low usage, shadow AI, expensive licenses, and which nobody uses. On the other hand, if you see on the right hand side of it, where you have workflow redesign, governance and controls, data measurement, operating model, and executive alignment. So I think this is where majorly Adoptify comes in, where we have people from industry experts coming in doing a lot of change management, uh, people coming in doing a lot of hand holding with your uh, teams, be it sales team, marketing teams, HR teams, finance teams, and then of course recreating the use cases for you exactly where this becomes productive. So I think in the complete funnel and the value chain, it's very important for us to understand where you are in your journey. Then it is very important to understand what are the key use cases for you. Then it is very important to understand the data readiness. I mean, if we talk about AI readiness, there are multiple checkpoints: people readiness, org readiness, data readiness, all of those things. But I'm just going to focus on these two because we help organizations really drive people in organization readiness. So pilots that never scale, isolated wins, no repeatability. We have seen multiple times. Chintan, if you remember, in the first year, we did about so many customers got onboarded, and we were facing, because we did start with pilots, right? Because every organization is like, we want to do a pilot with 20 people and then we will scale. And what happened next was when they actually scaled, they really faced issues because there was no best practices being shared across the funnel. There were teams sitting in Dubai, then there were teams sitting in India, and there is no correlation, though they are working on the same project, but there is no real benchmarking, and there is no real I would say sharing of best practices. That has created isolation in the organization and then really impacted the complete scale project that we wanted to implement. No credible ROI story, board questions, and of course we don't have an answer to it. So I think this is where I would want all of us to understand that these two track methodology, and with the kind of framework that we have developed over a period of time, not just from a strategy lens but also from the lens of executing it, as we all have seen it in our internal organization also, we follow only the one KPI, which is execution. Execution is the only KPI for us. We do not now talk about more talking and less of doing. We talk about doing it, implementing it with the people involved into it, so that there is a buy-in from the people to really go ahead and use those applications, tools, workflows to really drive the adoption. So I think, Chintan, over to you. What you have developed over your, with your expertise, how this AAA framework works, and if you can give us a little highlight and understanding on how this framework works, it will be great. And then I might be able to take them through exactly what are the key offerings at the last, and then we'll have question and answer.
Absolutely. I hope everybody is enjoying the session. Do you have any question? Please feel free to share it in the chat. The goal is to help you assist everything that you can. So one of the questions that we have, biggest challenge is so far is security. We have good understanding, do's and don'ts, but power of AI is really scary. And absolutely, that's where the framework is extremely important. And just to sum up what Rahul has discussed so far, the two most important tracks of an adoption journey we're talking about. The most important part is the people readiness, as well as we need a structure. So if you do not have a people readiness or you do not have a structure, either of the ingredient is extremely important for driving an organizational readiness. And it is extremely important to have it a structure. So how do you actually move both the tracks in a way that you do not, do it by accident, but you do it with an enthusiasm, and then you do it with a framework. And the framework is extremely important in an AI adoption, because adoption in an AI is not only the technology, but also the behavioral change and the psychological change as well. Because change will come up with a lot of nuances, which has to be structured with the repeatable, staged operating model. So, if you're starting to, drawing a line, you want to scale the business in the adoption process, you want to adopt the process in a way. How do you do it is what this framework is saying. And the framework is pretty simple. It says AAA framework, or you can say AAA framework. It's adopting, it's adapting, and accelerating. So there are technically three stages of any AI adoption journey. The three stages are actually making it easy for you to understand where we are and where we want to go. And from where we are to where we want to go, it's extremely important to map everything from we have AI tools to AI is business capable or not. So how we actually measure the value, right? Rahul has rightly mentioned. So one really important thing that about this framework that we are emphasizing is, because it comes up with every executive conversation, that it's completely stack agnostic. So like we have mentioned, if you're using a tool, which is an X tool, you're using it with the Y solution, you have a Z infra. If you're investing in Microsoft Copilot, Gemini, AWS Bedrock, Salesforce Einstein's open source model, proprietary models, your mix of everything, whatever AI stack you have chosen, the model that fits to the framework that we are assisting with. So why does this matter? And it is extremely important to understand, because almost every framework you will see is a tool specific, right? Microsoft has a framework for a Copilot adoption, right? Google has a framework for a Gemini. AWS has the similar for the Bedrock. And each of them is excellent for driving for a specific product. Now, what you talk about is none of them are solving the cross-executional challenges. So because from an execution perspective, Rahul has rightly mentioned, execution is the number one KPI right now in the world of AI. The hard part is the workflow change, the behavioral change, and we had a very good comment, the governance change as well. And while we are doing this, the measurement of infrastructure is a key part of everything that we do. So these are the various challenges why we want to have a stack agnostic framework, which is an essential part of scaling the real enterprise adoption, right? So each of the three stages, while you're talking about whether it is adopting, whether it is adapting, or whether it is accelerating, has its own signature and its own specific interventions as well, right? So what we want to do is we want to de-risk it for you to understand that where you are. Are you actually adopting? Are you really accelerating? Or where you want to move to the next stage, or what would be the right stage for you? So you can't be accelerating if you never completed adopting at all, right? And this is the harsh reality of an AI adoption. The foundations will show cracks if you do not scale with a structure, right? So you want to say, if you want to grow with a structure, each stage is very, very important. So how do we do is we do the self-diagnosis process, we do the readiness assessment process, and each of the stages are actually giving the overall structured way. So if you see the stage one, which is an adopting, right? So when you're adopting, building the foundation for AI to work, this is where the most organizations start their real AI journey. And honestly, where are many organizations are still stuck today, even after 2 or 3 years, they're using the tools they have procured, they don't feel, you're actually there, right? So if we feel the urgency because we're staying long into one stage, even though we are actually investing highly, it's extremely important to move ahead in a structured way and then have a processes in a place, have a workflows in a place as well, right? So let's say if you are in the adopting phase, we have bought the tools, right? That's what we actually do. We have bought the tools, but we are not sure where to start. Or different teams are using the different things with AI. There is no coherent plan. And the word is very, very important because that has to be a central strategy. It's very important for every BU for themselves. We need to show a leadership, a roadmap, not just a, kind of a pilot, right? So what needs to happen in this stage is three very specific things, which is already mentioned in the slide as we go further as well. First, you assess the readiness, both people and organization, right? So if you assess the readiness, you will actually get to know that what we are supposed to plan in the processes that we have. So this is kind of an honest diagnostic of the processes that you have. Diagnostic of skills, confidence, workflow maturity, governance, and everything which is aligning to the executive alignment and the goals, right? So most organizations skip this because they feel like it will slow the work, it will slow down, and they start directly jump into the deployment of the tool. And this is what everybody is doing, right? But that's the classic mistake. The second and most important point, which is mentioned right now, that where specifically can AI move a business metric that you're actually finance team really happy with, right? So AI could help marketing, but that's not workflow. AI can reduce drafting 8 hours of work to 2 hours, right? Which means our sales team can pursue around 30% of the time or more than that in actually doing their job, right? So that's the workflow map to the metric which everybody was looking at, right? Third and most important part is establishing the governance. And Rahul has rightly mentioned every country has their own governance. They are coming here with the souvenir AI as well. It's very, very important that are you fully complied or not? You're using a tool, tomorrow may not be available, your data is in the tool, it's highly risky, right? So even the baseline governance is extremely important. And we call it a safe AI, including an AAA framework, where you are actually thinking about the risk upfront. So you're actually de-risking the risk. And I want to be very blunt about this because we see this is all the time. It is severe, right? When you get tools get deployed before the organization knows how to use them, licenses are going to sit idle, or they are going to not have an enthusiasm, the skepticism is going to go high, and then at the end of the day, we think that we are uploading the data, which is actually a high risk data, and then you do not have a compliance or the setup around it. So this is where the second and most important part of the entire process comes, which is the adapting, right? So when you are actually fully aligned that, hey, my adoption phase is clear, the adopting phase is actually helping. And this is the hardest wall in the entire journey, right? Why? Because they moved from we have AI tools they have got users. Now, when we have AI tools to you have got users, we are actually not talking about only the pilot. The pilots are in work now, right? So the sign you're actually trying to solve is here is that some teams are using the AI, but the results are going to be, let's say, an inconsistent. Team A is getting value, team B is not getting the value, and we don't know how to fix it. And that's where the adopting phase will really help. So what needs to happen is this case is the a fundamental shift approach on let's see what AI can do to let's prove what AI is worth. Now everybody is knowing what AI can do, right? We're learning, we're webinaring, we are doing Googling, YouTube, there are tons of courses out there. Actual work is what matters it how does it shows in your PNL, right? And if does not shows up in your workflow, your business runs on an everyday, it shows as a tweak or let's say as a nudge or let's say a dopamine you can say but then it doesn't really affect. So the second and most important part is enabling the role based usage. And how we do it with this is you're trying to accelerating the overall process with the role based usage. So now when you're actually moving from an adopting to an accelerating phase where you're actually putting the work in, right? So here we want to talk about, let's say we are using AI, but we could do so much more than what we are using in AI, right? So this is a so much do more phase where we're actually putting the value in it. So leadership wants to have, let's say, a board level reporting, CFO wants to have a value reporting, IT wants to have a usage reporting. Everything that we want to lie is where the accelerating phase will start. And then you're actually creating the champions network. We are actually driving the adoption in your entire organization. So champions are the people inside your each business, which is actually driving the overall processes. So the third and most important part of this entire process is, as it mentions clearly, is that while you're adopting, while you're accelerating, while you're the governance is highly important, being set up before the early stage starts. So here the mindset shift is actually we are talking about absorb what we have done, analyze what's working, and scale it to the level where actually it becomes the day-to-day routine for an actual process. And this is where the three-stage process is extremely important. If you can move to the next slide, Rahul.
Sure.
And what happens, if you're following these three stages, right, which is, very cool looking stages, adapting, adopting, accelerating, you want to really see that what's happening when the journey is managed well. So you will be able to clearly see the difference between an organization which is winning with an AI and the difference with an organization which is stalling with an AI. So it's not more tool, it's not about more pilots, it's not about more training hours, it's not about bigger budgets. We see an organization with an enormous AI budget is stalling also, right? I've recently written a white paper where we're actually, comparing 10 different frameworks. Now, how do you solve it? So you solve it with visibility, execution, and outcome. Now, these are the three most important key ingredients where you're actually moving the system from a conceptualization to a PNL based view, right? So from when an organization gets stuck to an execution process is what we want to actually work with a team. And then how do we do it? We do have an overall framework which ties back to the product processes, delivery mechanism, and the dashboards. And our team loves the dashboards a lot because everybody can see what they want to see. And Rahul is going to, put the slide across. We're going to go for it. So it's about, you've seen when organization gets stuck with versus without an outcome delivery system. And it is extremely important that you have a proper delivery system because structure and execution is key, right? So without one, you'll not be able to have an ROI estimation. Without one, you'll not be able to set up the governance. Without one, you'll not be able to have people consistently using an AI, right? Without one, Leaders ask questions no one can answer, right? So these entire processes we want to align into a process where we can actually see a measurable outcome. And what we cannot measure, we cannot talk about, right? So let's say when you get a concrete setup up, when we say measurable outcome means what? We don't mean, like a percentage of the workflows got enhanced. It's about the overall ROI per employee, right? So we don't want to quantify the story that, hey, team is feeling more productive. Now, feeling more productive and being more productive are two different things. So we meanwhile operationalize this process. So if the tool is being used, for example, a screenshot shows the Copilot adoption dashboard. You will see active users by department, right? Not the word active means not the license user. Active users means actually using the tokens. They're using the workflow. They're consuming the license in the right product. Second is that adoption trends over a time, right? So if you're using it for a certain amount of time, will it going to grow or not? Right? So is the adoption growing? It is declining. What's the stage look like? Right? So that's what the most important part we also try and show. The third and most important part is tools and licensing utilization. So you have a complete measurable outcome. Let's say you have X number of licenses and percentage of the licenses are not being used effectively, how you can literally identify, right? So that's where we want to make sure that there is this gap which is being bridged fully, and then we want to concretely show that what you have, what's the gap was, and what your AI adoption would look like. So the most important part here is about the core promise, right? Operationally making it live, so we don't just tell you where you are, we show exactly how you will need to get there and how you will be able to grow your adoption. So the diagnosis process to an implementation process is core of this entire journey and the process, right? So if you can move to the next slide, Rahul, and I'll respect the
Yes.
time. Scale without the visibility isn't a scale, it's a risk, right? So, your CISO will come, your CFO will come. I want to spend a few minutes on something like, everyone is talking about, because if you're not thinking about it, your CISO, your chief risk officer, your general counsels, etc., will 100% think about it, right? So the first and most important question, as you can see, who is using what, which data, and up to what extent, right? Second and most important question is, can we comply it and be compliant regularly, right? So third and most important question is that, does the board have the visibility of how AI performing or not, right? So, and the fourth question is governance keeping pace with an adoption or not, right? So in the APAC context itself and overall geo, right, Singapore's model AI governance framework is evolving and tightening. So does within India, so does with the Japan. If the governance is aligned with the adoption process, that's where you'll be able to see the real measurable outcomes. And this is where the framework is actually helping. And why it is helping, that's what Rahul is going to help you align, that we have a very structured week over week approach, and then we connect the dots back to the journey of the organization where they are into.
Yeah, I think thank you so much, Chintan, for giving a lot more comprehensive understanding on the framework. And I think it is very important for all of us to understand how this has become a framework that we are not just talking about, but we are executing with our clients. So initially, when we talked about adopting versus adapting versus accelerating, I really want to take everyone through what are the key plans that Adoptify also does it. So let's say if there is a company who says that I am in adopting stage, it will take typically 2 to 4 weeks of engagement from our end. The primary focus would be to establish, first of all, the readiness across people and organization. So that will give a lot more visibility. Even before you are stepping into something, you know where you are with your people, with your org readiness, not of course with data readiness, that is still one function we are developing, but with people and with org readiness, we are very clear with that where are your teams, how are we going to measure them, because as Chintan rightly mentioned, you don't improve until you measure, right? I mean, that's one of the things that we all have been following in corporates, and we know that that has substantial amount of value into it, and that's one of the reasons we want to start measuring first through AI readiness assessments across both tracks, be it technical tracks or non-technical tracks. You have teams who are working in the technical segment versus you have team towards legal, finance, HR. We have every AI readiness tracks developed. Now, these AI readiness assessment tracks are not just putting a 15-minute exam and people are coming and giving it to them. It's adaptive test that we have created where, depending upon the user's understanding, it increases the difficulty level. And then with that, we have a lot more, I would say, we have used AI to authenticate that. So we have a proctoring tool in place where online assessments can be safely taken. No one can cheat, write, or do any tampering with the examination. So assessment becomes a lot more important tool, and the output of assessment will be more, you will be more confident about the output of the AI assessment, because you know that there is a lot more other technology that has been involved, which is safe, secure, and better for you to understand where your team is right now from a readiness perspective, from a people readiness perspective. Of course, we have a governance starter kit, top validated use case for your organization, executive ready roadmap where you should go for the next 90 days. And most of the organization that started with us from adopting stage has translated to adapting, and then adapting to accelerating they have done on their own. Some of the organizations have directly jumped from adopting to accelerating as well. So of course, there are multiple ways of looking at it, but we suggest first go with adopting if you are exploring AI. If you have already done the pilots and you really want to see the ROI, you have already bought in tools, you are now in a phase where we want to really see and show the organization this is how the adaptation should look like. That's where you go for an adaptation package, which is about 6 to 8 weeks. And then of course you have about accelerating package where you have proven workflows and you have SOWs, you have proof of concepts already established, and then you have to scale it. Mass scaling needs to be done with right training in place, right execution, with right change management being done. That is where accelerating comes in place. So I think clarity replaces the confusion in adopting stage. Investment becomes an evidence in adapting stage. That's very, very important. And most likely, if I want to talk about accelerating stage, AI becomes a business capability, not just a pilot project to show your leaders that this is a checkbox activity and we are AI native, digital first, all of those quotes. I think those quotes would just be quotes, but the real value will be able to, we will be able to see the real value. Just to give some understanding, we are very closely working with Microsoft. Microsoft has been our partner for about 27 years. We have our CXO teams filled with Microsoft. I just wanted to tell you, Microsoft has recently launched a narrative which says that their Copilot is most likely going to be independent of OpenAI. So they are putting a lot more efforts to make Copilot independent of OpenAI. So just to tell all of you that Microsoft has been the biggest investor in OpenAI. So just to give a lot more understanding that Copilot adoption is one of the scope that we look at right now. If you are a Copilot company, you are into agents, you are into Microsoft 365 suite, or any suite for that matter, not just Copilot, but Copilot happens to be very closely working well for us. We have seen the improvement. We are also cloud service providers for Copilot. In case if you want to have a better deployment of Copilot with respect to your use cases, that is what company also supports it. So I think pretty much what I wanted to talk about. Last one thing that I really want to talk to all of you is that the journey really adapts, and I would say the measurement remains consistent throughout the journey. So AI readiness is not one suit fits all. Of course, there is multiple industries. Every industry has multiple roles. Every role is different in multiple industries. Just to give an example, something that I am doing in IT industry versus, let's say, an HR is doing in IT industry versus an HR would be doing it in the manufacturing industry would definitely change. This has been a very generic understanding that HR as a functional role would always be same across the industries, but that is not true. So just giving you some examples related to HR, but of course, healthcare. If you talk about healthcare, where governance plus workflows key plays an important role. If you talk about financial services, where compliance plus audit plays a very important role. If you talk about retail, where a distributed, or I would say distributed is the right word, in fact distributed adoption and your inventory management becomes very important, right? Manufacturing, if you go into how you operationalize the scale. Legal and professional services, it is more about, I think, from legal, where we have worked with legal companies, we have seen behaviors and control systems in place, becomes because they do a lot of agreement management, they do a lot of contract management. That is where it becomes very important what are the key tools that needs to be utilized, what are the expert led gpts needs to be utilized, exactly meant for legal. So I think that's what we wanted to actually talk to you about. If you have any questions, feel free to write it on the chat. Just to tell everyone, whoever is going to attend this webinar, we are going to give you a one consulting session free, where one of our SMEs would come in and they would be speaking to you to discover where you are in your AI journey. You can write down in chat your email IDs if you want to. Well, of course, we have the data coming in directly from whoever is attending the session, and we would be able to accommodate that for you. So AI, of course, is no longer the question. Execution is. You need more adoption, and that starts knowing exactly where you are. So where you are in your journey is the precise and the concise part that we need to answer, to really know how do we move forward and what is the next 90 days, maybe 120 days, 180 days, or 365 days roadmap would look like. So we support across Copilot, Gemini, AWS, Salesforce, or any AI tech stack that you have it in place. We are more than happy to assist in that. And even if you're exploring at this moment where you feel that I don't even have a tech stack, I don't know Microsoft Copilot, I'm still exploring, but I need to seal my tech stack by end of 90 days. How do I do that? That's where we come a little more handy. Chintan, anything to add from your end? I am pretty much done here. If you have anything to add, feel free.
Absolutely. Really appreciate it, Rahul. An amazing session again. So is there any question in the chat? Let me just quickly look at. Understood. And Mr. Manu says we are definitely going to share the slide. This recording will be available to you. Sakshi, you want to wrap up the session? I think we have everything covered.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much, Rahul, and thank you so much, Chintan, for this insightful session. I would request the audience, if they have any questions, any doubts regarding the program, or maybe, how to move forward with this, please drop them in the chat box. We'll be very happy to assist. Otherwise, we'll be having a one-on-one session with each one of you shortly. So please be prepared with your questions, with your doubts. We'll be very happy to, answer all those questions. So this session was recorded, and you'll be receiving the recording of the session shortly. Also, you'll be receiving your participation certificate. So do tag us on your LinkedIn and other social media accounts. Yeah, I think we do not have any further questions as of now, Rahul and Chintan. So
thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.
Much, everybody.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday.
Have a happy Friday and rest of your remaining weekend. Thank you.
Thank
Take care,
you.
everybody.
Bye.